Hello everyone, and welcome to our third video in the tutorial series. And in this video, we're going to be discussing and implementing an FPS limiter to limit the frame rate. As you can see previously in the previous video, we had our computer had a massively high frame rate of 73 million updates per second. So yeah. So let's get started. So guys, before we get started, please subscribe and like. It really helps me out and helps me support me and motivates me to be making these videos. So let's go on. So previously we just created a simple FPS counter. So I'm just gonna remove all this stuff, and then I'll just call this the FPS counter code. FPS counter code. So yeah, and we don't need this for now. So all we're trying to do now is limit these two things to a limited frame rate. So we're gonna create a new variable and we're gonna call it public. It's gonna be an integer, public int frame rate or FPS, and I'm just gonna default it to 60. We're just gonna default it to 60. In fact, let me not do this. Yeah, so we're going to say inside the constructor FPS equals to 60. We're going to be changing the implementation of our FPS in the future. So yeah, of our frame rate counter and all the stuff in the future. So yeah. Now here we go. Now let's go with this logic. Before I get started, if you wanted to do something, let's say if you wanted to, do a task 10 times per second, in a minute, you firstly divide the amount of seconds inside that minute, which there's 60 seconds, and then you will divide it by the amount of times you want to perform a task, which will be 10 times per second. And then we get 6 seconds. So this means that every 6 seconds we're supposed to perform this task. So we use the same logic when we're creating an FPS limiter or something to limit the frame rate of the update and rendering if we wanted to. So what we do is we're gonna create a time per tick or per update. So I'm gonna create a new integer variable. Oh, no, not an integer. I'll create a floating point variable. This is the same as a double variable, but a floating point I think has too many decimals and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's gonna make it. I'm gonna say 1 billion is equal to 1 billion. Control C. Divided that by the frame rate, which is FPS. That's the first thing. And oh, I forgot to say updates per second. Or time per update. I'm just gonna say time per update. Yes, now that we get a time per update, we need to basically get a the last time and the current time. So since we already used now and last, I'm just gonna create new values. And yeah, so I'm gonna create a new value and I'm gonna call that what did I say new? Anyway, so yeah. So I'm gonna create, and it's gonna be long variables. So long current time, we're just gonna make it equal to 0. And past time, the previous time, and we're just going to have another variable called previous time. So I'm just going to say prev time, and we're going to set that to equal to system.nanotime. System.nanotime, because this is the previous. This is prior to this line of code. So now what we want to do is surround the codes that we want to limit with our frame rate with a 60 FPS. We want to limit these two inside an if statement. And inside that if statement, we're just simply going to say if the current time minus the previous time, current time minus the previous time is bigger or equal to time per update, then we can update, then we do all this stuff. So yeah, and there shouldn't be a space here. So I'm just going to surround that with parentheses. And yeah, so basically this means if we executed the time faster than, for example, the previous example, so the 60 divided by 10 equals to 60. Yeah, equals 6. So for example, wanted to do this task 10 times in a second, we get 6 seconds time interval. And if, for example, if we perform the task in 1 second, instead of performing it again, we're gonna wait for 5 seconds to finish. So this is the same logic here. This is what applies to here. So now let's get to the coding. Now what we're doing now is, before the if statement, we get coding. So we're gonna say current time is equal to system.nanotime, the current time, the current system time, system.nanotime, and this whole business happens. And then after that, directly after this stuff, after the task, we need to assign previous time to current time, because this time over here isn't going to be the same as this new time. Time equals to last time, equals to last time, no, equals to current time, sorry. The system.nanotime here and the system, if you create a system.nanotime after this execution, it's not going to be at the same time, because it's going to consume CPU time to actually execute this set of instructions. Yeah. So now we need to count the FPS. So now we're done with our limiter. I think we're done. We should be done. So now we need to put the counter, we need to increment the counter inside here. Inside here, so that we can actually get true frame rate readings. Now let's get started and run. 0 updates a second. Okay, for some reason it's not working, and I have no idea why. So yeah, let me just try and display the time again. Let me just display current time minus previous time and see what we're dealing with. Copy, paste, and run. Okay, these values aren't right, so oh, I see my problem. The mistake was I put this code outside of the if statement, so it means it's getting reset every single time. So I need to cut and put it inside here. And voila, it's happening. So right now I just want to not display the update and the render text, and just display the frame rate. So yeah, as you can see, now we have limited our PC, our game loop to 60 updates per second. Let me just change this text a bit and say per second instead. and yeah. So there we go. So we did it. Yeah, so we limited our frame rate. So there's a different way to doing this, but I won't introduce it to you now because it's not necessary if you're making a simple game, but it's very necessary if you're making a complex game. Anyways, so guys, yeah, so thanks for watching. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe, and yeah. So the next video will be creating a canvas, adding a canvas to our display, to our Jframe, to our window, so that we can actually draw onto the screen, onto the whatever, and make cool stuff happen onto the window. Because currently we have a blank, empty window. Next time we're gonna put a canvas onto this window, and yeah. So guys, as you know, as always, the source code will be down in the description. There'll be a link to the source code down in the description. So guys, peace.